Welcome to Pen and Perspective, where the story always knows more than it's telling. Every word is intentional. Every silence holds a truth. Let's get into it. Part 1. They said it was an accident. They would all remember the night differently, but the city would remember it the same way. Quiet, like it was holding its breath. Los Angeles is loud during the day. Traffic, construction, arguments that start and end at stoplights. But late at night, certain blocks soften. The sky dims. The roads empty. And the city pulls the world into this slow, humming silence that feels almost holy. That's the kind of night it was. A Thursday that felt like a Friday. A stretch of Arlington that never cared too much who passed through as long as they respected the neighborhood. Walter Marshall was driving home. Not fast, not sloppy, not even tired in the way people like to imagine later. He had Taylor with him, his cousin, shoes off, legs tucked under her, half asleep but pretending not to be. The kind of comfort that comes from familiarity, history, and a bond that never needed to be performed for outsiders. Walter had that steady kind of presence, the kind people trusted without thinking about it, reliable, consistent, never the loudest in the room but always the one people called when things went left. And that was the funny part. Not funny haha, but funny odd, because in the Marshall household, reliability had never been rewarded the way brilliance or beauty was. Walter was the middle child. Middle children know how to survive entire family systems without making noise. They know how to shrink when needed, stretch when needed, and pick up slack without applause. They know how to be the glue without people appreciating what it costs to hold everything together. His older brother Warren was the headline kid. He was the one their mother bragged about over centerpieces, the one their father measured success against. Warren walked into rooms expecting praise, and he got it. Ayla, the youngest, had been crowned the golden child before she even understood what that meant. Their mother adored her, their father spoiled her, and people outside the family whispered how lucky she was. Ayla hated that word. She hated the pedestal. She hated the pressure. And she especially hated what it meant for Walter. Because while she got adored, Walter got expected. Expected to behave himself. Expected to handle things. Expected to be fine. It wasn't malicious. That's what made it hurt more. Their father, a high-ranking LAPD commander, had built a career on being stoic, respectable, unshakable, a man of the badge. Their mother, deep in the black debutante world, was polished, sharp, controlled. She didn't allow emotional cracks. She wore her pearls like armor. Walter was the only one in that house who wasn't worshipped or feared, just assumed. Sandra changed all of that, or tried to. She had been warm when they met, genuine warm, not performative warm. She came from working class roots, loved family barbecues, didn't care about who was wearing what or who lived where. She fell in love with Walter because he felt safe, steady, grounded, the kind of man who didn't need a spotlight to feel like himself. And she promised herself one thing: I'm not becoming his mother, and I'm not raising my kids the way he was raised. But money complicates promises. Upward mobility complicates identity. Motherhood complicates everything. As Walter's real estate development business grew, revitalizing plazas in Inglewood, turning forgotten lots into mixed-use spaces, Sandra felt the pressure forming around the edges. New schools, new expectations, new eyes watching them. Not everyone in Ladera Heights smiles with kindness. Some smiles are evaluations. Sandra became stricter, more image-aware, more anxious, not cold, never cold, but stretched thin, battling the fear of becoming the very thing she spent years rejecting. The kids felt it. Ayla saw it. Walter tried to soothe it. Nobody ever fully talked about it, not yet. The friend group was its own ecosystem. Dante, the kind of friend who'd clap for you publicly and clench his jaw privately. Terrell, the powerhouse attorney who wrote emails like warnings and won cases like missions. Kiara, Sandra's best friend, the marketing strategist with a sharp eye and a sharper intuition. Michelle, the stay-at-home mom who saw everything and said nothing until it mattered. Brian, the art gallery owner with cultured charm, the one who'd sip wine and observe people like pieces in a curated exhibit. And then there was T. Greaves, T grew up with them. Same schools, same blocks, same summers, same inside jokes. He wasn't core friend group, but he was orbit. He had been active in the streets, but not messy, never reckless. He moved with intent, with calculation, with a quiet brilliance people didn't recognize until they needed it. He could look at a problem and see 10 solutions. He could hear a story and know where it didn't line up. He could sense danger before anyone else felt the temperature drop. People dismissed him because he didn't present like a lawyer or a developer or a marketing exec. They forgot brilliance wears many faces. Marcus didn't forget. But Marcus's story wasn't for tonight. Back on Arlington, the night deepened. Walter slowed at a red light, yawned once, adjusted his grip on the steering wheel. The neighborhood was calm. A bus stop on the corner, empty, except it wasn't. A girl stood there, red Ralph's polo, black work pants, name tag that said El Monroe. Neat braids pulled back, hands folded, still, watching. Not strange enough to alarm, not close enough to question, just present. Taylor shifted in her seat but didn't wake fully. The radio hummed, the air was warm. Everything about the moment felt uneventful until the white van rolled forward. Not fast, not loud, just wrong, wrong angle, wrong timing, wrong place. Walter reacted instantly, foot slamming the brake, arm thrown across Taylor's chest, but the street was too small, the timing too tight, the setup too perfect. The impact wasn't violent, not the way movies make it look, but it was decisive. Metal folded, glass misted the air. A soft, muffled thud as the world tilted. Taylor hit her head. Walter's vision blurred, and the red Ralph shirt on the corner? Gone. The sirens arrived quickly, too quickly, if anyone had been paying attention. Detective Tony Strauss stepped out of the unmarked car, like this wasn't his first questionable scene. His expression didn't change when he saw the positioning of the vehicles, or the skid marks, or the suspicious lack of security camera red lights on the nearby businesses. He moved like a man checking boxes he had already filled out in his head. Paramedics worked on Taylor first, unconscious, breathing shallow, pupils slow. Walter was awake barely, but disoriented, slurring more from head trauma than alcohol. None of that mattered to Strauss. He didn't want evidence. He wanted narrative. One officer handed him the tow slip, already filled out. Strauss folded it without a word. He noted the time, the inconsistencies, the too clean chain of events. And then, enthusiasm gone, he decided none of that was his problem tonight. He instructed the rookie to follow standard procedure, which was code for follow the system the way it's already been. Within an hour, rumors had begun. He'd been drinking. He ran the light. His cousin said he was swerving. They found a bottle. The van driver was sober, open and shut. None of it true, none of it questioned. Phones started buzzing across the city. Kiara saw the message flash across her screen and felt her stomach lurch. Michelle picked up on the third ring, her voice trembling. Terrell left his house in 30 seconds flat. Dante read the group chat, stared at it too long. Sandra couldn't get her hands to stop shaking. Ayla drove like the road owed her answers. The hospital lights always tell their own story. Artificial brightness over real darkness. Walter was conscious but in pain, drifting in and out, trying to speak but slurring from the concussion. Doctors were focused on stabilizing him, scanning him, keeping him from slipping into something worse. Taylor was unconscious, critical, the kind of condition that makes families hold their breath for days. Sandra sat stiff in a plastic chair, hands locked together so tight her knuckles whitened. She didn't cry, mostly because she was afraid that if she started, she wouldn't stop. Isla paced, pivoted, cursed under her breath, questioned every nurse who passed by. The golden child mask was gone. She was just a little sister now, furious and scared. By the time Walter was awake enough to understand where he was, the narrative was done. Reckless driving, DUI suspicion, injury to a passenger, serious liability. And the van driver, gone home and no charges, no tests, clean record, the kind of clean that gets polished by someone else's hands. A month later, Walter was in county. He was sentenced. Tonight was the night Los Angeles shifted. Tonight was the night a man who had always been overlooked became the center of a storm no one saw coming. Because here's what's true, always. Nothing about that crash was honest. Nothing about that night was accidental, and nothing about what came next was simple. Update 1. By the time this part starts, it's been just under a year since Walter went to jail. Long enough for the courthouse dust to settle, long enough for headlines to move on, long enough for strangers to stop whispering his name when Sandra walks into Ralph's. But inside that circle, inside that marriage, inside that family, ain't nothing settled. The first crack in this next layer doesn't come from the courts or some new witness or a news story. It comes at 3:14 in the morning. From a blocked number Sandra almost lets ring out. She's half asleep, the kind of tired that lives in your bones, phone glowing on the nightstand. She squints at it, sees one word on the screen. Inmate. Her chest tightens. She fumbles for the phone, answers on the third ring. Hello? This is Sandra. The line clicks, that heavy prison call silence, and then a soft breath and a voice. Low, calm, too calm. Sandra, don't trust everybody in your friend group. She freezes. The voice isn't loud. It's almost gentle. No echo of a guard in the background, no beep beep warning that time is up, no clank of metal phones. Just that one sentence. Who is this? She whispers. No answer. She hears a second breath, then a scratch like fabric moving against concrete, and the call drops. No goodbye, no click, just gone. The system chimes after, automated and cold. This call was placed from an inmate facility. Her heart drops into her stomach, because here's what's true. It didn't sound exactly like Walter, but it did not sound like him either. It sounded like somebody who knew her name too well. She doesn't sleep again. She sits up in bed, phone in her lap, staring at the call log. Up 03:14 a.m. Inmate call 0009. 9 seconds. 9 seconds that feel like a trapdoor opening. By 7 a.m., she's called the prison 3 times. Each time they tell her the same thing. Ma'am, there were no outgoing calls from Mr. Marshall's unit at that time. Ma'am, his phone privileges don't start until after breakfast head count. Ma'am, if it was a glitch in the system, all we can do is note it. Note it. Like it's a loose screw instead of a threat. By noon, she's at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug she hasn't actually drunk from, staring at nothing. The kids are at school. The house is quiet in that heavy way she hates. She calls Terrell next, and he answers on the first ring. You good? He asks, voice still groggy. No, she says. I'm really not. He listens, doesn't interrupt. There's a lot of silence on his end, the kind that means he's already turning the words over in his head while she's still saying them. You sure it wasn't him? He asks finally. He said my name like he knew me, she answers, but it was off. You know, Walter don't talk like that when he's nervous. His voice gets higher, not lower. And he would have said more. He would have, I don't know. It didn't feel like my husband. You tell the prison? He asks. 3 times, she says. They said there's no record, no call, no nothing. The lawyer part of him kicks in. Save the voicemail, he tells her. Forward it to me, don't delete anything. You think it's real? She asks, voice small. I think somebody went through a lot of trouble to scare you, he says, and I don't like that. She visits Walter the next weekend. If you've never done visitation, it's its own kind of hell. The fluorescent lights, the stale air, the way love has to fit into plastic chairs and supervised eye contact. Walter looks tired, older, still handsome, but with a different weight behind his eyes. The kind of tired that comes from holding your sanity together with both hands. They make small talk at first, the kids, the house, his parents. She waits until a guard walks past to lean in. Did you call me in the middle of the night? She asks low. He frowns. What? Earlier this week, she says, 3 in the morning. There was an inmate call on my phone. They said it was from here, but when I answered, it was just somebody whispering, Sandra, don't trust everybody in your friend group. And then it hung up. Walter stares at her like he didn't hear right. I don't even have phone time at 3 in the morning, he says. You know that. They lock us down before midnight. I ain't touched that phone since Tuesday. And I damn sure wouldn't call you playing games like that. I know, she says, eyes burning. That's why I'm scared. He leans back, looks past her for a second, jaw tightening the way it does when he's thinking through something and doesn't like where his brain is going. What exactly did they say? he asks. Don't trust everybody in your friend group, she repeats, and the way he said it, it felt like he knew something. Walter shakes his head slowly. Nah, he says. See, I didn't like that detective from day one, and now this? Somebody playing dirty around my name, around my life, around my family? He looks back at her, eyes hard now. You tell Terrell? He asks. Yeah? Good, he says. Because if they trying to spook you, that means they nervous. And if they nervous, that means something ain't as solid as they thought. She doesn't tell the whole friend group right away. Part of it is shame. Like somehow having a husband in prison is already enough drama, and this extra layer is too much. Part of it is survival. She's still trying to figure out who she is now that her life is divided into before court and after sentencing. But when she does tell them, that's when the room shifts. They're all at Kiara's condo, a little check-in night. Takeout on the counter, music low. One of those evenings where people try to pretend things are normal, even when nothing is. Sandra hadn't planned on saying anything. She was going to hold it, keep it with Terrell, keep it with God. But grief makes your mouth heavy. And when Michelle asks, you get any sleep this week? It slips. Not really, she says. Somebody from that damn prison called me at 3 in the morning talking about, Sandra, don't trust everybody in your friend group. That sentence drops in the middle of the living room like a plate. Everybody stops. Kiara's hand freezes halfway to her drink. Michelle's eyes widen. Ayla, sitting on the arm of the couch, straightens up so fast her hair falls forward. And on the other side of the room, Dante's head snaps up. What? He blurts too loud. They said what? Brian looks over from the kitchen doorway, eyebrows high. I mean, Dante laughs once, shaky. You sure it wasn't just, you know, some random dude playing on the phone? People sick like that. It came from the prison system, Sandra says. Her voice isn't loud, but it's steady. You can't prank no DOC line. Could have been a wrong number, Brian offers. Maybe they meant to call somebody else. And say my name? She asks. Nah. For a moment, nobody says anything. You can feel it, though. The energy, the way it wraps around different people in different ways. Kiara's eyes flick from face to face, silent. Michelle's stomach twists, something she's been ignoring for months, pushing forward. Dante clears his throat. Look, whoever it was, he says, they wrong for that. You already got enough on your plate. He sounds upset. He sounds offended even. But it's a little too sharp, a little too fast. Like he's not reacting to what was said. He's reacting to the fact that it was said out loud. Brian steps in, gentle. You good? He asks Sandra. You want us to stay over tonight? I can crash on the couch. She shakes her head. No, I'm fine, she lies. Terrell's looking into it. If there's one person in that room that makes crooked people nervous, it's him. Over the last 9 months, everybody in that circle has been carrying their own piece of discomfort. That voicemail doesn't start the suspicion. It just brings all the quiet questions up to the surface. T never liked how the case wrapped, not from the night of the crash. He was at the scene, standing behind the tape, watching Walter's car and that van and the way the officers moved like they were going through a script. He remembered the skid marks then, the angles, the way the cars ended up versus how the report later described it. But trauma blurs details. For months, all he had were flashes. The curve of rubber on asphalt. The dented pole that mysteriously didn't make it into the photos. The liquor store camera that never blinked red. It wasn't until he was on another job, watching a tow truck drag out a wreck from a forced off-course collision, that his brain did that click. The skid patterns matched. The angle matched. The way one car had been redirected by another matched. So when he went back to that intersection, it wasn't on a whim. It was to confirm what his body already knew. The city had laid fresh asphalt over most of it. Paint new, street smooth, but you can't erase everything. Old wounds leave traces. T walked the sidewalk, hands in pockets, like any other man killing time. He noticed the distance between that spot and where Walter's car had officially landed. He saw the liquor store's new camera housing, brand new casing where the old one had been broken that night. He took mental pictures, then real ones on his phone. not sending them to anyone, and not yet. He doesn't know exactly what happened, but after that visit, he stops even pretending to believe the official story. Michelle's unease has been quieter. She doesn't have skid marks and camera casings. She has group chats and tone shifts. 4 months after the crash, she left Kiara's place late. They've been up talking about everything and nothing. Kids, work, the heaviness sitting between them all the time now. The street was quiet when she stepped out. That tired LA, quiet where the air feels heavier than it should. She locked her car, turned, and saw a girl at the corner. Red Ralph's polo, black pants, neat braids pulled back. Still, looked like an employee waiting for a ride. Nothing special. But there was something familiar in her face. Something that tugged at Michelle's memory. Before she could place it, a car passed, headlights sweeping the corner. And when she blinked, the girl was gone. She told herself she was just tired. That grief makes you think you're seeing things. But when Sandra tells that story about the strange voicemail and don't trust everybody in your friend group, Michelle's mind goes right back to that girl in the Ralph's uniform, to the way she seemed like a detail she was supposed to remember. Then there's Ayla, the golden child who hates gold. She's been angry since the minute they put handcuffs on her brother. Angry at the system, angry at her parents, angry at God some days. But she doesn't hide it. She was the only one who cussed out Detective Strauss in the courthouse hallway. "Open and shut, my ass!" she'd snapped, toe to toe with him while her father tried to tug her back. "Y'all didn't open nothing. You just shut it." When Sandra tells them about the voicemail, about that voice whispering, "Don't trust everybody in your friend group," Ayla doesn't go quiet. She leans into it. "Good," she says. "I've been saying that. All skin folk ain't kinfolk, and all praying for you ain't real concern." Up until now, Kiara's been in caretaker mode, making sure Sandra eats, getting the kids to school when things fall apart, running interference with the outside world. That voicemail, plus the way certain people reacted to it, plus the way information has been handled from day one, it flips a switch. After everyone leaves her condo that night, she sits at her laptop and opens a new folder. Names it something boring again, something that wouldn't catch attention if anyone glanced over her shoulder. Household receipts. Inside, she starts dragging in everything she has, screenshots of text threads, photos from that night, links to news articles, notes on how people have told the story and where their details don't match. She doesn't know where it's going yet. She just knows she's done letting this story belong to other people. This is the beginning of the version of Kiara that doesn't just strategize for brands, she strategizes for survival. While the housewives and sisters and best friends are working off instinct, Terrell works off paper. He's in his office when the envelope comes, and it's thick, hospital logo in the corner. One of those things that usually ends up in a stack to be scanned and filed later. He almost tosses it aside, but a line on the front catches his eye. Corrected record. Audit compliance. He opens it with the kind of tired curiosity that's been living in him since the verdict. Inside, he finds a letter from a new administrative associate at the hospital, a corrected patient ID sheet, a copy of Walter's full lab panel, and the tox report, the real one. The letter is polite, clinical. During a recent audit of cases from this time period, it came to my attention that an initial lab entry for patient W. Marshall was coded incorrectly in our system. The original summary may not have included the full toxicology values. Please find attached the corrected and complete record, forwarded as a matter of compliance. He scans down to the numbers. Blood alcohol content, 0.00. He doesn't move for a full 10 seconds. Reads it again, checks the patient ID, checks the date, checks the time. Collected upon arrival. No transfer to LAPD custodian. No chain of custody involving law enforcement, just clean hospital-run labs. But in the police report listing visible signs of intoxication, there'd been no lab numbers attached. And in the discovery packet the DA's office turned over, that tox report had never existed. His heart doesn't race. His stomach doesn't drop. This is confirmation. Because he knew something was off when he first tried arguing lack of impairment, and they brushed it aside like opinion instead of fact. Now he's looking at proof that either someone hid this, or someone decided it wasn't necessary to include. And both of those options smell the same. He leans back in his chair, the leather creaking under his weight. Man, listen, he thinks to himself, and they played in my face. He doesn't call Sandra yet. This isn't something you drop on a woman already balancing heartbreak and kids and strange voicemails. He doesn't call Ayla. She'll set the courthouse on fire tomorrow. He calls one person. T, he says when the line picks up. I need you. And that's where we're stopping for now. A crash that never made sense. A man sitting in jail for something his spirit keeps rejecting. And a friend group that swears they're solid, but the cracks already showed up in the silence between them. Sandra heard a voice she still can't explain. T. Grief saw something he can't unsee. Michelle feels that little tug in her chest every time she thinks back to that night. And the rest of them? They're playing it cool, a little too cool, like folks who know way more than they're saying. But listen, stories like this don't stay buried. Truth got a way of pushing itself up through concrete when the timing's right. And the timing? Yeah, it's getting real close. This was part 1. When we come back, update 2 is going to shift everything. You've been listening to Pen and Perspective. If it sat in your spirit, let it linger. If it stirred something in you, don't ignore it. I'm Miana DK, and this story, it was always meant for you.